Digest. Goody and I are in person for the second time ever. The first time we did it, we did a live stream. We were watching the Leafs play the San Jose Sharks. Joseph Woll, I believe, actually got a shutout that night. We went something like 3 for 3 on our bets. Wayne Simmons, anytime goal scorer. Pretty good debut for the in-person stuff. So we're going to bring it back again here today. We'll probably try to do some more stuff. I like this with you guys in the future, but if you watched last night's game, or if you didn't and you just caught our game recap, you would have seen or heard that we were pretty harsh on Jack Campbell. He's been struggling lately, hasn't been able to get in the rhythm of things, hasn't really been able to get things going here. And it's starting to cause a little bit of a goalie controversy here in Toronto. Now, Sheldon Keefe's not one to normally speak up necessarily and call guys out. It's happened 1 or 2 times over the last little while, and when he does it, it becomes a really, really big thing. So, of course, what happens last night after the game and is all over social media today, Sheldon Keefe calls out Jack Campbell. Keefe had this to say after Campbell's performance. He's got to be better. That goal to start the period, it's a nothing play. Really, it's a routine save that he can make there, and he doesn't, and then it kind of snowballs from there. That's a tough one, and he's got to have it, and he will. So, not great stuff from Jack Campbell, and very, very pointed comments from his coach after the game. Goody, I mean, we talked about if this is a goaltending issue, what the Leafs are going to have to do here. There's not really much they can do in terms of going out and fixing things. There's a lot of money tied up. Kyle Dubas was quoted as saying that they're not looking at the trade deadline as if they have $7 million. They're looking at more as if they have 2. That limits things a little bit more there. As far as the comments about Keefe and Campbell go here, yes, he was harsh on him in the beginning, but he does finish it off by saying he has to have that, and he will. My first thing that I'm kind of wondering here as we break this down is, do you think Jack Campbell can turn this around and fix things this season?
First off, I definitely do. I still have a lot of faith in Jack Campbell. I'm not too worried about him. I know that there is some issue for concern here, which is why we're talking about it, but the greater scheme of things, I think Jack Campbell will be a good option for us, especially if Peter Mrazek can get it together a little bit more. He's looked better recently. I'm hoping that Peter Mrazek can come through. Who knows what trade deadline will bring the team, but I definitely do have a lot of faith still in Jack Campbell. And when it comes to Sheldon Keefe's comments, I got to say my first reaction, it was like, I'm happy that he's paging players. You know, This is good. This is healthy. I'm happy to see it. But then on second thought, I was like, how much does it really do calling out a guy like Jack Campbell? I don't know if Jack Campbell's the kind of guy that needs to hear it. Like, he'll tell it to himself.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm not saying that it doesn't serve a purpose. I think just for the sake of treating everybody the same in terms of accountability, it's good and healthy to call out a player, even if it's your goaltender who's super humble and lovable and typically reliable. I just think Jack Campbell's internally so harsh on himself as it is. Is there really any benefit to Sheldon Keefe saying anything? And maybe it's a trivial question. It was just my initial reactions.
When I look at like him calling guys out and the response that's had, I completely agree with you in terms of maybe on that guy, it might not be in the best situation. Yeah. We've seen Jack Campbell, he is the first person to get on himself about a bad game, Definitely. Bad goals, bad whatever. He's the first person to jump on that. We saw him at the All-Star break talk about how the fact that he doesn't have a contract next season, it's bothering him a little bit, or it's on his mind at least. It's something he's thinking about that contract, whether or not he's going to get it. Is he going to stay in Toronto? Different players react to different things in different ways. I mean, look at Nazem Kadri in Colorado, for example. This guy's on a contract year. He's a UFA at the end of the season. He has a chance to go and make a boatload of money. And what's he doing? Well, he's one of the highest point getters in the entire NHL. Some guys thrive under that pressure. You go back and you look at the history of July 1st signings. How many of those signings were guys that got way too much money because they had one really good season before they were a free agent? It's a scary thing, and when you're approaching that free agent period, sometimes you got to take that into account. But then it can also go the other way. You look at a guy who maybe they get really nervous about the fact that they have this contract coming up, and Jack Campbell was playing incredibly. Maybe in his mind he thought he was going to earn him a contract right then and there. It doesn't get him the contract. The team's going to hold out and wait. And now it's weighing on him, and now it's going to go the other way where he's probably going to get less money. Maybe Toronto's not going to want him back. Maybe Toronto doesn't trust him to go in the first goaltending position here. But it's just interesting to play with guys' emotions like that, and you got to be careful about who they are and how they respond. What I will say, though, is that from what we've seen of Sheldon Keefe calling this team out, he doesn't do it often, but when he does, it's big news, and it seemed to work. Yes. So I'm leaning towards giving him the benefit of the doubt on this one, where yeah, it's harsh comments, and even I'm sitting here going, man, I don't know how Jack Campbell's gonna take that one.
Yeah.
But he's had it work before. He's the guy who's in the room with him every single day. He's the one who's on the ice with them. He knows what's going on with Jack Campbell's head. I considering I've seen it have success in the past, I'm leaning towards, okay, I trust him with this, and he knows what he's doing here, and this could be the good thing or the right thing to do to help along Jack Campbell.
Well, and I guess for the sake of consistency, like I said earlier, just to keep all of your players at all positions in check by saying things in the media when they really need to hear it, that's something that, you don't want to pick and choose with. It's a standard on the team. So I respect that from Sheldon Keefe. He's got to remain consistent in that regard. But I just do worry about the internal complex right now of Jack Campbell, the emotions he's feeling because of the reality of the NHL business, any sports business. Contract negotiations are tough. Players leaving teams are tough. There's really no way with complete clarity to predict how it's going to go. So there's always that calculated risk. And now with Jack Campbell, after this past while, we're seeing that calculated risk kind of out favoring the Leafs a little bit these days. We are cap pressed. Jack Campbell's a little bit older. He only came into his own as a starter very recently. And with that said, I think a lot of goaltenders blossom super late in their career.
For sure.
So I'm not overly worried about it. I just think that right now he's got to get some firm ground from the team. And I think that maybe that comes in the form of support from his teammates and Sheldon Keefe giving him a healthy push and he answers right back. He's got to get something that's going to bring some enjoyment back into his life right now in Toronto. Because right now, he's panicked. The team's had a lot of different weird streaks recently. And like I said, he's just got to find some solidarity soon because it's not looking great when he's in net, even though you get a crazy win last night. That was insane.
Yeah, and I mean, he definitely looks a little panicked. You look at some of the goals that are scored against him right now and the way that they're going in the net, it's something that you're looking at and going, okay, if you let in 4 goals here and there, it's not that big of a deal, especially when the team can outscore and you see the offense that this team has. They're incredible. We have, and I said it last night in the post game, this is probably the best first line in hockey.
Yeah.
Like in the entire NHL, this is probably the best first line. Our second line's struggling a little bit, but I mean, Nylander still manages to get himself on the board, and it was on a penalty kill, but so does Ondrej Kase. That's 2 guys on the second line scoring, finding ways. I think Tavares is having a really tough time. Your team scores 10 goals and you don't get 1 point. That's not ideal.
No.
But there is supplemental scoring there, even from the third and fourth lines, where you can trust that this offense can get something sparked. Like David Kampf is scoring goals. Michael Bunting is on pace for 30.
That's insane.
He's tied for 6 in the entire NHL in 5-on-5 goals. And so you're looking at this you're looking at this first line, you're looking at how they play 5-on-5. Yes, they're in a slump on the power play right now, but they can score. The problem with Jack Campbell comes in that the goals he's letting in are A, really poorly timed, and B, huge momentum killers. I mean, you add them in with the poor timing, but it's the types of goals. You look at the goal that Sam Gagner scored last night, that is a Jack Campbell giveaway because he panics with the puck behind the net, can't make the play. Probably part of him is not trusting himself to make the right play or make a good play, fires it around the corner. Sam Gagner is standing there and puts it in the empty net, and Jack Campbell's taking the long way around the net, can't get there to stop it. Like, that is a panic play where you're not trusting yourself, and then the team sees that go in and goes, oh man. And then it's add on. Okay, now it's the goal that Sheldon Keefe's referring to, where the puck gets sent down the ice, it gets iced, they beat it out. I'm not really sure what the Leafs defenseman's supposed to do. The Red Wings player has momentum going in, he's got to turn around, whatever. The guy takes the shot from the corner below the bottom of the circle, and it manages to not hit anything, just goes straight in past Campbell. Those are momentum killers. You cannot start periods, you cannot respond from your team scoring goals with those things happening. It kills everything.
And it's a shame because this used to be his strength, was consistency. He might not be the flashiest or most athletic goalie in the NHL. To his credit, he was doing some pretty crazy things earlier with the Leafs. But I also think his big strength that we really liked in him over Frederik Andersen is the fact that we could rely on him to stop those shots.
Yeah.
So long as we would keep ourselves in the game with our forwards and our D, we could trust that our goalie would give us a fighting chance.
Because those were Freddie goals.
But you know what? Maybe I'm having this realization right now. Andrew always calls in and talks about how Toronto seems to have this thing with goaltenders where it just inevitably gets to them.
Yeah.
And then next thing you know, they're in that microscope in that Toronto market that basically crumbles them. Exactly what happened with Freddie Anderson. What happened with, Bernier's, we won't even go down the Bernier rabbit hole right now. But anyways, there's many names you could mention here, but Frederik Andersen definitely had the media, the fans, everyone get to him a bit, and he was so unpredictable, especially in the crunch of games. Jack Campbell comes in feeling no pressure, which whenever Andrew calls in to talk about it, I say to him, I think a lot of this comes back to the fact that Jack Campbell came in here with reasonably low expectations. Frederik Andersen started playing bad. He was able to step in, get a little bit of momentum, and next thing you know, he's a starter in the NHL. I know a lot happens in that span, but you get what I'm saying. He did this from a position of being the underdog.
Yeah.
Right now, the Leafs are a top dog. He started off really good, but I think that contract is creeping into his psyche because clearly there is something mental going on here. The goals that he's letting in aren't him just getting beat one-on-one. These are him literally overthinking situations, not hugging his posts properly. It's something's going through his head right now, Phil, and I think it is that contract, but it's a shame because this was the thing that we used to really love about Jack Campbell, was the ability to make the routine saves and let the players dictate their own fate.
Yeah, and I mean, you look at the last 10 games that he's played in, I wrote it down here, and I'll run through it a little pretty quickly, but obviously starting with last night, 5 goals against, 4 goals against, 5 goals, 1, 2, 5, 4, 1, 3, 3. Like, this is something we had not seen from him at the beginning of the season. This guy had a GAA close to 2, a really good save percentage in the top of the league. He was one of the league leaders for the entire beginning of the season. And then over this last 10-game stretch that he's been in there, he's really struggled. Getting pulled, losing starts to Mrazek, just letting in these weak, poor-timed goals, not giving the team a chance in front of him. He's really battling through this. And then again, last night, like I said, the 5 goals, but it's more than just 5 goals. It's 5 goals on 20 shots, and 2 of them stand out so drastically in terms of, that was on you, man. You're looking at it going, you needed to have that. Yes, there's team breakdowns around him, and I get it, and the defense isn't perfect, and we've talked numerous times about how the defense needs to step up and help. Yeah, but he's got to help too.
No doubt.
He has to push things along. But when you look at this Leafs team and you look at Sheldon Keefe's comments, I can understand how some people would go, oh my God, I can't believe he would say that. Why would you call out the goalie? We need to figure this out. Well, here's the problem. Who are you going to get? I went and I looked at the top trade bait goaltenders for this season and who's going to be available. And we're looking at Georgiev out of the Rangers. He's a RFA at the end of this season, but he's going to come with a really high price tag. They've obviously decided on Shesterkin, but they're looking at Georgiev, who's also a very good goaltender. He's going to cost a lot to acquire. Fleury, $7 million salary cap. That's not working.
No.
So Chicago's got to take
Not worth it.
the maximum that they're allowed to take, up to 50%, and then Toronto's going to have to figure out ways to dish out salary in order to bring that in. And then guess what? Fleury's a UFA at the end of the season, probably going to retire. So you're going to dish away all this stuff for a guy you know is going to retire. Then again, you go to Braden Holtby, $2 million, maybe a more likely option, plausible. I talked about it in the offseason, how this might be a guy they needed to go and acquire. They ended up getting Mrazek instead, but it's also looking at Holtby, where he's at right now, he's not the guy who's going to carry you over the hill and help you get there. He's going to either have to come in and be the one and pray to God that Mrazek can step it up and help him out or take over, or he's going to have to come in and help Campbell, and then even if that happens, are we in much better of a position? And then we have to dish out the Mrazek contract. Like, there's too much stuff that has to happen. And then the final guy being Korpisalo out of Columbus, who's an RFA at the end of the season, $2.8 million salary cap. But again, how do you fit these guys in here? What do you have to do to get them? And then they're all UFAs and RFAs. So Georgiev or Korpisalo, you got to sign at the end of this season. The other 2 guys probably going to leave.
Man, hear me out. The solution's Joseph Wall. That's where I'm getting here. That's where I'm getting here. So many in recent years, you look at Matt Murray, you look at Jordan Binnington. Teams are now proven that goaltending can only get so good. I think that's where we're getting in hockey.
Well, I think it's also to the point of they can go on a run.
Yes,
like a guy doesn't have to be an incredible goaltender, but he can come up, go on a run, and help you there.
Yeah, exactly. I just think that you look at the goals that were scored back in the old days of the NHL. Phil, I know that you and our boss at work, Johnny, always talk about you guys could have scored how many, 50 in the 70s or something?
Yeah.
Just crazy comments like that. But honestly, like when you consider how far hockey's developed as a game, it looks like a completely different level of skill required to play, and it genuinely is. And I think that nowadays, the recent trend kind of supports it of winners in the past few years. As much as having a rock solid goaltender really, really matters, if you're a good enough team that can win with some decisiveness, just having a guy who can go in there and do the routine things like Jack Campbell was doing earlier, that's good enough to do it. And if we can get Joseph Wall a little bit hot right now, I don't know. I don't see Peter Mrazek or Campbell jumping off the page as the answer right now. And I could see like a heroic story for Wall coming up and helping us through this issue, because I don't know if we're going to resolve it at trade deadline. You know, as Phil's talking and outlining our options, you know, Holtby's like a reasonable number on the cap hit, who's won a cup, could help us out. But, you know, he's way past his prime, and right now we need a little bit of a bigger answer. How about a guy trending up, like Joseph Wall? See if you can push that development and get another feel-good story of a Stanley Cup winner that did it with a rookie goaltender, because there's been many recently.
No, you're right.
I'm wondering.
Yeah, no, you're right. And they did just sign him to a 3-year contract extension. They do obviously have plans for him to be here. But I think it also just adds to our whole dilemma, or our point of Sheldon Keefe's calling these guys out because they're well aware the solution to the goaltending problem probably has to be in the room.
Yeah.
Your ability to go outside and go and get something else to come in and fix things, it's going to be hard. It's going to be hard because they're expensive, they're UFAs, they're older guys. You don't know if these guys can necessarily come in and be the one. Fleury's probably the one guy you look at and go, yeah, that's the guy who can come in here and do it. But even he has had playoff struggles recently. Hence why Matt Murray has to go in there and win Stanley Cups for Pittsburgh. And then he's going to come in at a $7 million cap hit. I don't know. There's a lot of question marks around it. So Sheldon Keefe doing this, he's obviously trying to get a push from inside, push things along, help these guys go and get something on the roll here, so that they can fix this internally without having to go and pay for big pieces at trade deadline. But we'll see what happens with that. And I do want to remind everybody to make sure you go to manscaped.com. Manscaped is the best in men's below-the-waist grooming, and they offer precision-engineered tools for your family jewels. Goody, I mean, I don't know, you get an electric razor and you're going, I don't know if you can trust this thing. It's going to cut me. I don't know if I can use this. Well, guess what? The Lawnmower 4.0's 4th generation trimmer features a cutting-edge ceramic blade to help reduce grooming accidents. They also throw in the Weed Whacker nose, ear, and hair trimmer. It is perfect for anything you're looking for. Clean yourself up, take care of yourself, and make sure you keep yourself safe. That ceramic cutting edge blade also has a 400K LED spotlight for a more precise shave. So if you guys have not taken advantage yet, make sure you go over to manscaped.com, use promo code Leafs Digest. You can get 20% off and free shipping, so make sure you take advantage of that. Right there, we are helping you guys out with a huge offer, so make sure you go to manscaped.com, use promo code Leafs Digest. Check it out. It's scrolling across the bottom of the screen here. So if you're not sure what I'm saying, you can see it on the bottom of the screen. You guys can head over there, but make sure you check out Manscaped. Leafs fans, as far as the goaltending situation here in Toronto goes, it's going to be an interesting one as we head up to trade deadline. I know it's been talked about that this team is looking for defensemen, maybe a top 6 forward, but if goaltending issues continue to be a problem, it's something this management is going to have to strongly consider. Who's available? What are they willing to give up? Can Jack Campbell or Peter Mrazek turn things around or be the guy, or can we solve those problems in front of them and help them out? Maybe the defense gets better and things get easier for them in net. We'll see as we approach this trade deadline, but we are very, very close. Trade deadline March 21st, so if you guys want to get all the trade news, rumors, breakdowns, game recaps, it's all here on this channel, so make sure you hit that subscribe button. Thank you guys so much for watching. Keep believing.
Signing off.